The Noah's Ark tunnel story went viral last week, and now some experts are pushing back, and honestly, the evidence does not support this being Noah's Ark. So a few weeks ago, researchers scanned this boat-shaped formation in the mountains of Turkey, or Ararat, as it says in the Bible. And they reported some possible tunnels underground and some changes in the organic matter. I made a video on it last week, so go check that one out if you haven't seen it. Christians have been raving about this lately, and I'll be honest with you, I wanted it to be true as well. I wanted this to be true so badly, but we have to look at the truth and we have to look at the evidence. And just because we want something to be true doesn't mean that we can say it's true. Now let's look at the New York Post and see what made it blow up. So they ran ground penetrating radar scans and they took soil samples from the site. It reportedly matches the 515-foot dimensions of Noah's Ark, and they uncovered a series of corridors below the earth, and that is what people have been raving about. They said that they found some tunnels down in the middle of this boat. They also found a central cavity that they're calling the atrium. Also, help me get to 1,000 subscribers, guys. Click that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really means a lot to me. Thank you. So claims of corridors and tunnels and a central cavity that they're calling the atrium. I get why this is blowing up in the Christian world. It's super cool in thought, and it's very compelling, but just because something sounds compelling doesn't mean that it's evidence. And as you can see, there are similar shapes in this hillside, like right here is a similar shape. But let's take a look at what some of the experts are saying, because this is where things shift. Even Christian scholars are pushing back on this. So people like Wesley Huff are pushing back on this, who knows more about this stuff than I do, so I will defer to his judgment for sure. He's calling the latest findings not legit, and they are rooted in sensationalism and non-credible archaeology. Apparently, this research team didn't have any archaeologists with them. I would say that's pretty important for this stuff. Now he's talking about Jones and his team, saying that they don't have any archaeologists on their team. And obviously he believes that this is the real decayed, buried remains of Noah's Ark, the famous ship. But evidence and science needs indisputable evidence, and that is what's important. And Wesley Huff has a PhD in New Testament studies. Obviously he disputed the claims on X, saying that it's not legit, and pretty much everything about the facts coming out of this story are embroiled in sensationalism and non-credible archaeology. And as I said, no one among this team are formally trained archaeologists, and describing their conclusions as hobbyist speculation. Huff also pointed out the limitations of ground penetrating radar and inconsistencies in dating methods. So the modern site of Mount Ararat has only been called that since the 13th century, Huff said, and the precise location of Ararat remains unknown. Huff also says that there are similar boat-shaped formations that exist in that region, and saying that it looks like a boat to me just doesn't amount to real evidence, which makes sense and is totally fair. So this whole Noah's Ark discovery, yeah, it's not legit. If we can deal with the reality for just a moment and suspend what a lot of people want to be true rather than what is true, pretty much everything about the facts coming out of this story are embroiled in sensationalism and non-credible archaeology. Now, I also wanted to play this clip for you from Dr. Jeremiah Johnston and Michael Knowles. Dr. Johnston is a pastor, a New Testament scholar. He's an author. He's the founder of the Christian Thinkers Society. He's written extensively on Christianity and historical claims just like this. So this is something that he does for a living. Let's take a look.
I guess if you kind of squint, it sort of looks like a ship. And there's this guy out there, this researcher who says it's exactly the measurements of Noah's Ark described in the Bible. And we think, though we haven't been there, we think that there are passageways underneath. We think there might be timber holding up part of the structure. And we found it, guys. We found Noah's Ark. And I'm there, I'll confess, last night I say, well, by golly, we might have found Noah's Ark. It all checks out. And then a man who spends a lot of time, a man who has Doctor before his name, spends a lot of time looking into these kind of things. You say it's bunk.
1,000% inaccurate. I'm sorry, and I want to be kind. I want to be pastoral, because there's a lot of wonderful Christians out there who want this to be true. But again, I deal in the world of evidence. I deal in the world of reality. And as you may know, Michael.
And that's what's important. The evidence is the most important thing. And this guy is a Christian scholar. He's a very knowledgeable man. He's been studying this stuff all his life. And honestly, someone with his background being this confident that this isn't Noah's Ark, I think that matters.
Archaeology is a contact sport. We don't get along a lot in the archaeology world. The one thing all of us get along about is 100% certainty. Darunabar, this geological formation in eastern Turkey, is not the spot of Noah's Ark. And we can say that without a doubt. It's very, very important that this site has a history that goes back to 1959, and it's a lot of urban legends. They use something called, if you don't mind, GPR, ground penetrating radar. Now, anyone who's been to an archaeological dig, as I have, knows that GPR is famously inaccurate in the hill country, in mountainous regions. Now,
Yeah, so that was another thing that Wes Huff was saying too, that GPR is basically unreliable in this instance.
And here's the fascinating part about this ground penetrating radar. Beyond the fact that they're saying they have shafts, that could be water. There are other mountain regions that look very similar, honestly, in eastern Turkey. And by the way, if you ever fly into Las Vegas, there's one that kind of looks like Noah's Ark there too. These are natural geologic formations. This is sensationalism that catches fire because Christians want it to be true. One of the gentlemen, I don't want to say his name because I don't want people to Google it, because he's also found the blood of Jesus. He's found the Ark of the Covenant. I don't want to say his name because he has no credibility. Even his own team has turned on him. And then the final
I think that's super important too. A lot of people on my other video were upset that Ron Wyatt didn't get credit. And while Ron Wyatt should get credit for discovering this site, he was not the most credible guy when it comes to these things. He claimed that he found the Ark of the Covenant, and he claimed that he found the blood of Jesus. And to be honest, claims like that put your credibility into question. That doesn't mean everything that he said is automatically false, but it just means that we should be very cautious when building conclusions on someone like that. And honestly, I just wish they would get the best archaeologists in there and dig this stuff up so we could have a conclusion and this can be studied and they can do all their scientific methods and get us the truth. But apparently they won't do that, and this will be what he says here.
Fox and Friends, they said, oh no, we don't want to do archaeology because archaeology destroys the site. Can I just challenge someone right now? I have a nonprofit. If someone out there wants to give me $500,000, myself and my IAA certified archaeologist, Scott Stripling, we will go there for a couple of weeks and we will dig down for, it costs about $500,000, and we will show you Noah's Ark is not there, but no one's willing to do that. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Now, I hope someone takes him up on that. I really do. And obviously, these guys are very well studied in it. They have no reason as Christians to want this not to be true. So like I said, I would defer to them. But let's just be real. Right now, there is no hard evidence that this is Noah's Ark. So we cannot say that this is Noah's Ark, no matter how bad that we want it to be. And to be real with you, the evidence leans away from this specific claim more than it leans towards it. But, and this is the most important part, that does not mean the Bible is not true. It just means that this one specific claim has not been proven. There are still much bigger conversations to have with flood accounts that we find across all cultures basically encountering a flood event. Large-scale sediment layers, catastrophic flooding events, sea fossils found way at the top of mountains, and how all of that relates to Genesis. So the conversation is not over, but it is interesting. And like I said, I was one of the people who wanted this to be true. But we have to follow the truth and the actual science. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, click this one right here.